Sharing is caring, or that is exactly what most people think when it comes down to Gabriel Jesus and Arsenal, a player who fits Mikel Arteta's blueprint possibly better than any other player signed in this era, maybe bar Declan Rice. But even then, I think that when we think of Mikel Arteta, we think of a player like Gabriel Jesus. And that is what's really interesting, right? Every big manager has a player that when you think of them, if not more than one, you think of that player, you think of that team, you think of that system. And when Arsenal at their very apex, when Arsenal this season have been performing, purring, and basically taking on the new identity that Mikel Arteta has given them, or the evolution of such, he has been at the fulcrum of it, or he's been one of those people. Just saying there's one guy is kind of reductive and dumb. But hey, welcome back to Lawrence McKenna channel. It's good to have you guys. If you've not already hit subscribe, hit that button and, it'd be good to have you. But if not, do it at the end of the video once you've been convinced. We're talking a little bit about a guy who performs very well in the Champions League, affords his sides a lot of opportunities. And affordances is a word we want to talk about here. It might be a word that you've heard before. It's a trendy coaching word at the moment. And frankly, it's a word that I've only, in the last couple of days, been looking into. I want to kind of define it before we get into it because I think it is really going to set up a lot of analysis that I do around Arsenal this season and why someone like Gabriel Jesus is so good within the Arsenal system and is just a good player in general, but also, why the combination of him and Arsenal works so well. By the way, these aren't necessarily the terms that Mikel Arteta will be using. I'm sure there are plenty of people around Arsenal who will go, Lawrence, they don't use these kind of words. Plenty of coaches use plenty of different words and very often will try and use their own terms because they want to define something very specifically that they want to achieve. But these are broad terms that I want to try and look at here. Affordance, as it says in this article here, is a new in vogue term and appears to be replacing constraint-led approach, which is, I'm not saying that Pep Guardiola and Arteta are two different kinds of managers, but clearly they do have similar ideas, but then there are diverging enacting of those ideas. And someone like Gabriel Jesus operates so well within that. When I speak about him enabling other players, when I speak about him being able to adapt within games, when you look at the idea of Jesus being able to read an opposition, enable the people around him, work out where the space is, and hook up with all the other people as those people also read the game, then you think of this, right? By definition, an affordance is the key origin of ecological psychology. Reading the opposition, reading the space that you've been given. Why was it that against Man City, why was it that against Sevilla, why was it that against Chelsea, why was it that against Spurs? I can pile these up. We saw Arsenal in their out of possession, but also in possession play being, I don't want to say conservative, but so well structured, so smart in the way that they played, reading and adapting to the environment, working out where it was they would win the ball back against City. Now, that's not me saying that, Arteta just sort of goes, hey, just go out there and just play, boys, and see what happens. But what he relies on is having players out there on the pitch who are good at reading the game, who are good at working out where the space is going to be, who's good at working out that when the opposition is sucked out, you can play the through ball. Martinelli is through because of his pace, and using all of these different properties of the team to maximize what it is that they get. Now, within that, affordances is something that we won't only talk about with Arsenal, we'll talk about with a number of different players. It's an alternative coaching methodology that appreciates the role of behavioral opportunity. No one gives you more behavioral opportunity and reading of behavioral opportunity than this guy. He grew up in an environment where street football was something that he needed to capitalize with. He played for Palmeiras, he then played for Man City. He was incredibly constrained under Pep Guardiola. It was probably one of the players who was given that leadership and freedom within the team to be able to do what he wanted at times, not always, within obviously constraints. And the key bit that I really want to highlight here is it's opposed to that constraining boundary of parameters. Alternative coaching methodology that appreciates the role of behavioral opportunity. Who's good at reading behavioral opportunities better than Gabriel Jesus? And we saw this perfectly against the likes of Sevilla. We've seen it, by the way, I'm going to skip this section just for a second, against Chelsea, where he plays as a centre forward. We see it against Spurs, where he plays as a left winger. We see it against City, where he plays as a right winger. Clearly, what Mikel, and this isn't me saying he just sends someone out there and he goes, go read the game, see what you do. What he's clearly got, though, in Gabriel Jesus is someone who's able to read the game, operate in a number of different areas or environments out on the pitch. Because I get it, like everyone goes, well, it's just the pitch. Like, you can compress it, you can make it wider, you can treat one quadrant of the pitch as, you know, an area or an environment, if you like, and work out the behaviours that the opposition do within those things. Clearly, there isn't a much difference between the win rate for Arsenal in this area. This is a Sky Sports graphic, by the way. But there is a difference in the amount of goals that they score in those times. There is a difference in probably the amount of goals conceded as well, but also just the chances created within that time. It isn't through pure chance that it was Gabriel Jesus that laid on the assist for Gabriel Martinelli, who has now scored, by the way, this is a lovely little stat, in his debut in the Champions League, Europa League, Premier League, and League Cup for Arsenal, showing that in those environments, he has a big impact. Now, along the front line over the last few games, they played this kind of 4, right? You can see it in any of these charts. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's really a 3, but it is a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this one didn't work so much because, well, he's out there and really there's a couple of people who dropped a little bit deeper. Who's number 19, I wonder? Anyway, the point is that within these environments, they're playing a lot of the 4s, right? Now you can see within that, he's one of those people who's going all over the pitch, reading the game, coming deep to pick up the ball, going a little bit further down the field to enable play, reading the game of to what Martinelli is going to try and do, but then operating primarily in this kind of an area and giving Arsenal lots of options. In the same way, by the way, as Martin Odegaard does, but Martin Odegaard does it in a slightly different way. Gabriel Jesus will be the guy who's looking to hook up with you. I think the affordances idea is something that why they signed Declan Rice, why they signed Jurrien Timber, why they signed Kai Havertz. They're all affordances-based players. And as the players begin to become more and more affordance-based, not that they weren't already, but you get what I'm saying, Arsenal are getting better at reading the opposition. They're getting better at adapting in-game, which is something that Pep Guardiola, by the way, got really, really good at. He had David Silva, Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, Rodri's fantastic at it. There's Busquets, you know, Xavi, Iniesta. There's a number of players who are good at reading the game, adapting around it, and essentially making a game plan within the game based on the notes that they've been given by someone like Arteta or Pep Guardiola, right? Now within that you can see, like last season, this is this season's touch map. Look how spread out that is. I was doing an analysis the other day of, here you go, this area. Harry Kane used to frequent a lot more of this, basically he frequented this whole area down here, by the way. But this area in particular, there was a lot more Harry Kane. Gabriel Jesus, all the way out in these areas. Very different to the way that he enables the other people. And that's because of the way the emphasis is for us. And it's also because Martin Odegaard is very much primarily a central player. Xhaka was a central player for those guys. Now Rice is driving into those areas. You saw those driving runs. He needs to adapt and take up different areas. On top of that, right, and I'm a Liverpool fan, I can speak to some of this. There have been some very smart Brazilians and other players who've played within our side. He reminds me of a hybrid of Mane and Firmino. Firmino, because he was very good at reading the game, was very good at enabling others, because his passing, because of the way that he saw opportunity, because of the way that he appreciated the other people that he played with. But also Mane, because Mane played all the way along Liverpool's front line. His adaptable nature, but also the skills that he embodied, was so key to what Liverpool were trying to do that you could apply them in any area of the field. You'll find there are other players within this Arsenal team that aren't necessarily that. They are more in that area. Now, you know, there are people who switch around and there are people who have the license to do that and don't. Saka operates within those areas, drives in, right? I can actually draw this out for you. I'd rather draw it than describe it. In, there. Whilst these guys drop a little bit deeper and then play the ball through. It was this area here the other night that he picked up the ball. And it was equally this area here, let me just use the pen, this area here that he operated and out here on the overlap to try to get the original goal. He drove inside, this area here, bang. It was a perfect Gabriel Jesus goal. What was that enabled by? His reading of the environment, them working out which, and probably knowing due to briefings and tape and all those kind of things with Mikel Arteta, what it was that they needed to go out there and achieve on the field. They did it perfectly against Sevilla. Some people have even said they thought this was Arsenal's best performance of this season. And that's after, by the way, the performance against people like City. At the moment, in the midfield, it's Declan Rice plus one. At the moment, very often, you're going to see that they've got someone like a Trossard out there, an affordance-based player. Someone who goes out there, reads the environment, adapts within that. And it takes different kind of coaching. You know, I'm not saying that I have any in-depth knowledge about what it takes to coach a team, but when I'm reading these theories, when I'm reading these ideas, these are what jump off the page to me. The difference between, I'd imagine, what Arteta and Guardiola wanted to do and what Guardiola's strong at and what Arteta is strong at are two different things. They can attack and play very similar football, but within that, their approaches to achieve those things are quite different. So when people say he's just copying Pep Guardiola, there was clearly a difference between the year when Pep had Arteta and Pep didn't have Arteta. Now, you could argue that when he went on to have Arteta leave and go somewhere else, Pep's actually reached new heights. That could be because of Pep Guardiola, it could be because of other people in the coaching staff. The point is that if I want my players to move the ball forwards as often as possible, then a number of opportunities for the ball being played forward must be provided. Who can read those? Who's the quarterback within that? How much criticism has there been of Arsenal's ball movement and the affordances of players playing alongside a Raya or Gabriel Jesus or a Rice or Kai Havertz? All of this seems to be based on these affordances ideas. And when people are criticizing the individual player, I get it. But giving them the time to be able to adapt, giving them their natural environment, which is basically, hey, I'm a reader of the game, I'm someone who can work out how to unlock the opposition, is really key here. I think Gabriel Jesus, he pretty much embodies all of that. There are times where you're watching Gabriel Jesus last season, you think, or Arsenal, and you're just thinking, God, I wish he was in this game. God, I wish he could have come here and adapt. God, I wish they were able to enable him. And there are certain times where he didn't manage to achieve that. And there were certain games where he thought that injury record, what the players are trying to do right here, they would be doing it 10 times better if he was on the field or if he was at full capacity. I'd love to hear an Arsenal fan's thought on this. I'd love to hear what you guys think this means for Arsenal this season, who is playing this kind of thing well. When you see Declan Rice reading the game well, when you see the players who are managing to fit into Mikel Arteta's new system and it flowing particularly well, you really see it. And I think Gabriel Jesus is one of those. That's why he got this trophy. That's why he can take the call. That's why you guys are watching this video. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know what you think of affordances. Some people are just going to say it sounds like players just playing football and reading the game. Yeah, a little bit. But I'll be interested to know what you guys think in the comments below, and how you reach those areas is very important. Gabriel Jesus, so key to that. Yeah, it's just been good to chat to you guys. Hopefully I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.